You're listening to the Business Wealth Impact Podcast, your source for empowering information and cutting-edge ideas from the world's top minds. I'm your host, Jeanne Amlour, founder of seven-figure coaching company, Jeanne Amlour International. Join me on a journey to unleash your potential and create your highest success. Welcome to Business Wealth Impact. Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Business Wealth Impact. Today we have a rock star, a woman entrepreneur, Heather Eason. She's a serial entrepreneur and business leader with over 20 years of experience in industries ranging from electric utilities to renewable energy and now Gen 2 renewable diesel. She's also a published author, and she's the CEO of three companies: Select Power Systems, Select Renewable Systems, and Sustainable Fuel Tech. Welcome, Heather.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here today.
Great to have you here, and I really appreciate you turning up here. So let's dig in. I'm fascinated that a woman has come so far in really what is male-oriented and dominated industries. So I was fascinated when you told me how you got your start. How did you get your start?
So I was the director of engineering for Siemens Energy. I had the US, Mexico, India, and Germany. And I loved my job. I loved my team, but I had the opportunity to start Select Power Systems. And interestingly enough, while all the men at that level had signed non-competes, they never asked me to sign a non-compete. So I basically resigned 2 weeks later, started my company, and the rest is history.
Okay, that is a godsend that they literally just underestimated you or never dreamt that a woman would start her own company. What a godsend. So you could just start, and all those guys had to wait probably a year and a half or 2 years, right? If they wanted to start a company.
Well, their non-competes at that time were 3 years. They were a 3-year
Right.
non-compete. Yeah, so it was
Oh,
very
wow.
restrictive. So yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Thank God they underestimated me and I didn't have to sign one.
Okay, fantastic. And then you started Select Power Systems right away?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, what does Select Power Systems and what is Select Renewable Systems and Fuel Tech? What are the three different things you're doing?
So Select Power Systems is the first company I started, and that was basically because I was an electrical engineer and I was working in design and working in electric utilities. So that was my network, that was my expertise. So it was easy for me to start that first company. And that's what we continue to do. So we are experts in transmission, distribution, substation design. We basically do it all. We're a la carte, turnkey if we need to be. We don't do construction, but we do have partners that we can partner with to do construction. Select Renewable Systems was a spinoff because I got so many requests for floating solar, traditional solar, battery storage, and also EV charging. And so we got so many requests through Select Power Systems that I spun off a sister company, Select Renewable Systems, to do all of that.
Interesting. Now, the sustainable fuel tech is the one that fascinates me the most because you were saying you turn garbage into fuel. Tell me a little bit more about that.
We do. And, I jokingly say I want to be known as the trashy lady because my goal is to close landfills, take all of the trash, process it, and create green diesel, a renewable energy resource. And so that's my goal. And so I'm really passionate and excited about that. It's something that it's not necessarily my core, but I have really jumped in and learned it, and it's really exciting, and I'm passionate about it.
That is exciting. And they could say, my name is garbage. You could also use that.
I like
now,
that.
my name is garbage. So you are telling me that you have a lot of fodder there, like trash. Like there's no shortage of that. Are you telling me that possibly we human beings could get all the trash in the world and create fuel out of that?
Absolutely. And that is what my goal is. I am passionate and yearn for the day that I can say I closed a landfill and I can take a municipality's trash, send it to our processing facility, and create clean green diesel out of it. I mean, that to me, if I could do that, that would be a life goal for me.
Okay, but you're already doing that to some extent, correct?
We are, but we haven't got to the point where we've scaled to where we can actually close landfills. Right now, we are
Uh-huh.
taking some trash, diverting some trash to the facility, but we haven't been able to get to the point of scalability to actually close landfills.
Okay, but the fact is you have the process in place to be able to do this on a smaller scale, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, how does that work? Take me through that. I'm fascinated.
It is pretty interesting. So we can use anything except for metals. So what we can do is we can divert the trash trucks to our facility and then we sort it. We have to remove all the metals, which is just a big magnet. And then we throw everything into basically a big blender with a heater. So we kind of blend it all up and we heat it and we take the moisture out of it. And then we send it through our proprietary process. And on the other end, we get clean green diesel. And why our process is so much better than anything else out on the market is our process creates clean enough diesel that it does not have to be refined again. So everyone
Mm.
else out there at the end, when the diesel comes out, it still has to be sent to a refinery and it has to be refined an additional step. We don't have to do that. We can take our diesel straight out, put it in trucks, send the trucks out, and we can replace gasoline with green, clean diesel immediately without the additional step of the refinement.
Okay, wow, you just blew my mind there. This is something you're already doing and you figured this out, you and your team?
I will be honest, I did not. The patent holder, Pedro, is a nuclear engineer. He is very intelligent. He holds the patent for this process. So he figured it out. I
Mhm.
came in and said, okay, how can I help? And so we
Wow.
started a company around his patent.
Okay, I was wondering how did you have time to figure that out yourself? So this is amazing. It sounds too good to be true that we stick stuff in a blender and it comes out clean diesel and doesn't need refining. That's unheard of. What's Pedro's full name?
I will be completely honest. I'm not going to try to say his last name because I would butcher
Whoa.
it. It's a foreign name. He is Spanish, and
Oh.
Pedro is a great guy, and he's wonderful, and I respect him enough. I don't want to butcher his last name.
Okay, wow. Okay, so this smart guy figured this out. When did he figure this out?
He figured it out probably 4 years ago and started the patent process 3 years ago. And then
Mhm.
we started we started Sustainable Fuel Tech under the Select banner probably, it's right at a year ago.
Okay, so how far up the scaling process are you? How much can you produce at the moment?
It depends on the site. It depends on the quality of the trash. And I know that sounds weird to say that you need good quality trash, but you do. You need trash that is clean, free of metals, that reduces the processing, and also low moisture content. The more moisture, the more we have to cook it and dry it out before we can actually start the patented process.
Mm.
So it really depends on how much and the quality of trash that we get as to how much diesel we get on the other side. And I'm going
Mhm.
to be completely transparent. We do not have any of these in the US yet. They're all overseas.
Oh, so you have overseas facilities that you own.
We do.
Where are they overseas? What countries?
We've got one in Spain and we've got one in the Dominican Republic. We are looking to get one in France. The one in
Mm.
France is a partnership with another company. So we're going to
Mhm.
co own the facility
Mm.
and then we're going to co own the output diesel at the end. And that's one of the things I'm looking at. If I can do that in the US, hey, I'm willing to co-own a location. We don't
Mhm.
have to say that we own everything and we're going to take it all.
Mm.
I'm willing to have partners. Let's bring in partners. Because my goal is to take as much trash and turn it into green diesel as we can. And so if I
Got
can
it.
scale that quicker by having partners in the US, I am an advocate of that.
Right. So why haven't you started this in the US? Is it a cost thing?
It is expensive. That is very true. It is expensive. More than that, I'll be honest with you, I have been so busy with Select Power Systems and Select Renewable Systems, I have not had the bandwidth to give the Sustainable Fuel Tech the focus and the energy that it deserves.
I understand. Okay. Well, that's fascinating. And I hope that we do bring it to the States because it sounds too good to be true that you pour. When you say good quality, well, most trash, I was thinking, is a mix of food leftovers, plastics, and papers. If you take the metals out, right?
Right.
I mean, that's really all there is. It's all sorts of plastics and some paper. I guess it's you want more of the less of the vegetable and more of the paper is what you're saying.
Right. The moisture content is one of the major players in how
Mm,
good the quality is. So if you've got a lot of vegetable matter, then it's going to be high moisture content. And
mm.
so we're going to have to dry it longer before we can start the process. And the longer you have to dry it, the more initial energy you have to use. And the goal for what I want to get to is I want our facility to be a net zero facility so that we're able to use our own green diesel that we produce to make
To
whatever energy we need as an input into the process.
to run it. That makes sense to me. Okay, well, this is all fascinating stuff. Tell me, what are the challenges that you've had? I mean, you're a woman in a man's world. So what are the challenges that you've had being I mean, there are not many women like you own 3 of these companies, am I correct?
That's true. Yeah.
Well, let's be real, okay? So, what are the challenges?
I'll have to say that being a female in a male dominated industry, it does have challenges. There are barriers, there are biases, and I don't think it's necessarily getting any better. When I graduated college, it was just me. I was the only female of my graduating class getting an electrical engineering degree. Fast forward, I have done my best to try to promote other women in tech and especially engineering. But I tell you, we have a leaky pipeline. About 7 years in, I don't know what happens around that time frame, but it seems like all of the younger girls that I mentor give me that phone call around 7 years. Hey, I'm going to take a non-tech, role, and it's like, well, man, that I understand. I do. I completely understand the constant fight. It does wear you down. I mean, let me tell you, just last week, I had a situation where one of my managers was a male and he told a male client of mine that he was quote unquote really running the business, that I wasn't running my own company, that he was really the one running the company, which is total BS. He
Mm,
was a manager, he had a role and responsibility, and he did his job, but he did not run the company. And I have always ran my companies and, I'm very hands on, I'm very active. I'm not a micromanager. I'm not an owner operator anymore. I've, been able to take myself up to the point where I act as a CEO. I don't act as an engineer anymore. And, I've struggled to get here and it's frustrating. It is so
mhm.
frustrating. I'm 8 years into Select Power Systems and to have someone call me and say, hey, by the way, your manager is saying that he's really running your company.
Well, actually, I think it's amazing that he told you that he was shocked by that. That's a good thing that he thought that was now you said was, did you fire the guy?
He resigned.
Ah, well, there was some problem there. He had a problem working underneath a woman, right?
I think so.
Mm,
Unfortunately, I've run into that more than once. I try to be the best leader I can be and I try to care about my employees.
mhm,
And so I'm compassionate and I'm supportive and I'm not the traditional, in engineering especially,
mm,
there's a air of military style leadership in engineering. And
mhm,
I think that's because after the war, when they started electrifying, especially the rural areas, most of the engineers were former military engineers. And so I think that's why you still have that leftover persona of the military manager. And I'm not
mhm,
that. And so I think sometimes, I think incorrectly, but I do believe sometimes the male employees think that I'm too soft and I'm weak. And I'm
mm,
definitely not. But I think I'm perceived that way just because I'm not militarily styled management.
mhm. Well, I mean, it's working, so it's not they can't criticize you that you're a man acting like a woman acting like a man because that's the other criticism. So you're not doing that. You're being yourself. Clearly have 3 very successful businesses. I can see that. So what's some advice you have these women that call you and say, "Hey, do they tell you why they say they can't hack it anymore? Is that the reason why they're going to get a non-tech job?"
Most of the time, they get tired of banging their head against the wall, that they experience, they don't just perceive, but they experience the barriers, they experience the glass ceiling. And so they're like, I'm tired of having to do 3 times as much as my male counterparts to get half the credit.
Mm.
Those are the type stories that I hear quite often. Also,
Mhm.
the hours it requires. When you're working 80 hours a week, it's hard to balance and to, figure out how am I going to be a mom and also be an engineer. So that's something else that I've changed with my company. So with my companies, I tell all my employees, hey, I want you to be billable 40 hours a week. Give me 5 hours of admin time, and that's it. If you're working over 45 hours a week consistently, you need to let me know because then we need to hire.
Right.
I don't want my employees working 80 hours a week just so I can reduce headcount by a couple of people.
No, you can't have a productive team and everybody will hate their lives and jobs and burn out and they get burnt out people. So what's the advice? I mean, how did you do this? How did you get started? And what's the advice for women that truly want to go for it? Like, I mean, you're a great role model. So what can they do that you did? What's that? How can you help them empower themselves?
Yeah. So my thing is we need more women in business, especially in STEM careers. If you have any interest at all, please join us. We need you. We have a great support network. I'm here. I'll definitely help out as much as I can. But even in your local area, one of the things that I did when I decided to start my company is I went to a local women business center and I met with them. It's free through the SBA, so you don't have to pay for it. These are people that, they've been doing support of small businesses for a while, so they have some good advice. The best thing that I got out of my women's business center coach was she helped me to write a business plan, not just my head of what I think I want to do with a company, but actually write it down in black and white, formalize it. And I think that was extremely beneficial. They're there also to help you if you want to get an SBA loan. I had gone through most of the process and decided not to do it. So I ended up bootstrapping and self funding and not getting a loan. That is more challenging to go that route, but it was the right decision for me because at the end of the day, I didn't have the stress of, okay, I got to make a loan payment in addition to payroll. It was,
Mm.
I just have to make payroll. And so it was less stressful, less anxiety for me to have bootstrapped and self-funded, but it does bring some challenges. So don't feel bad. Don't feel if you're less than if you get a business loan. Most
Mm.
businesses do get a loan when they start.
For this kinds of businesses, for other types, you don't need one. For instance, for people that are coaching, they don't usually need to get a loan unless it's for paying a coach. Okay. So you started this all, there have been some challenges, but you have never, well, even in your job, you didn't give up. So clearly you were grittier than a lot of these people, women who you never gave up. You were working for Siemens for how long?
I was there for 3 years, but I've been in the industry now at this point for 27, 28 years. So yeah, I have, I've been one that stuck in and didn't give up.
Mhm.
So why did I stick
Mm.
in? So interesting story. When I was 16, I became pregnant with my son. It was not by choice, but I realized at 16, okay, I am now responsible for this other living being. I've got to take care of him in addition to myself. I was a single mom. I had to figure it out. So it was like, okay, how am I going to give myself and my son a good life? And engineering is a career field where you can make a good salary and you can have a good career and you can afford a good life, even on a single income if you don't ever get married or find that perfect person. And so that was really my motivation why I couldn't give up. I had a son, and my son today, Kevin, actually works for Select Power Systems now. So it's been great for me. But yeah, why I didn't give up is because I didn't have the option. I was a single mom with a son at 16. I mean, you have to
Wow.
figure it out.
Wow. So you went to university. You already had a child when you went through university.
That's correct.
That is unbelievable.
Interesting
Wow.
enough, I almost didn't graduate high school. I went from being a straight A student, top 10, to barely making grades to graduate my senior year because I had my son. And so I went from barely graduating high school to, okay, I need to go to college. I need to get a degree in engineering. I'm an electrical engineer. Engineering is not easy, but I knew it was important. And so, yeah, I started college as a single mom with my son, and it wasn't easy, but I stuck in there. I was on the 6-year program because I had to stop every so often to work. I'd have to take a semester off to work to be able to
Mm.
save up money to live the next semester while I was in school. And so, yeah, you figure it out. I don't know. It's a blessing today. At the time when I was young, it felt horrible. It felt like a curse. I felt like my life was over. Now I look back on it and it's the best thing God ever did for me.
That is so inspiring. Really, I got goosebumps. You just did what you had to do, and you didn't say, gee, I'm going to go on welfare. You said, okay, now I got to work harder. Did you have anybody helping you with your child, or were you all on your own?
I didn't until my son was almost 4 when my husband and I got married. And
Mm.
so, I was a single mom until then. Once my husband came into the picture, of course, he helped out a lot.
Of
But
course.
he was divorced and he had 3 kids. So I went from being a mom of 1 to a mom of 4. So, we have a blended family of 4 kids.
At the age of 20.
Yes.
Okay. So, but before that, you had no family helping you out. There was no babysitting and family help. All on your own. How did you do that? Did you get some sort of childcare when you went to classes?
So I did. Luckily on campus, they had a childhood education degree. And so the students in the classes were required to work in the daycare center as part of their degree. And since it was supported through the school and through that program, students were able to have their children come to daycare really, really cheap.
Wow.
Thank goodness for that. I went to school. I dropped him off at daycare. I went to class. And then when I was done with all my classes, I would pick him up at the end of the day. And it was great because he had, people that were studying to be teachers, people that were getting masters in educations. He had some of the best people in his daycare to teach him. I mean, he knew how to read. He knew
Mm.
basic stuff well before anybody else. When he started kindergarten, he was like 3 levels above them because of the daycare program.
So it sounds like you had, in all of that, you had some luck.
I did.
Because a
Absolutely.
lot of universities do not have that situation. They don't have a child care degree or anything like that. And also they have to do a good job and they're being watched the whole time. So it's not like some daycare places, you wonder, I would never leave my child in some of those daycare places. Well, I never did, but you wonder, here they're being watched the whole time by supervisors. So, and it's also where you are. So you're not far from your child. Wow. I did not know that. That's incredible. And did you have another kid of your own apart from the 3 from your ex's family?
I did not. When my husband and I got married, we had 4 together and we're like, 4 kids is enough. And so we didn't have any more kids. I hope one day to have some grandkids, but we'll see what God has in store for us.
Well, you got 4 chances at that. Okay, I did not know that. So part of this is that when you got into this situation of a work environment, which was not perfect, was probably not such a big deal to you as it would be to other people because you've already been through hell, right?
Right.
I get it. So how can people develop that mindset without having to go through what you went through? There has to be some guidance for people that didn't go through all that hardship. How can they get to a point where they can sustain how you have?
So one of the things that's really stuck with me, and I actually had it put on a poster board that I have up in my living room, is a quote by Frank Sinatra. So Old Blue Eyes, he said, "The best revenge is massive success." And boy, that has driven most of my days. Whenever I have a bad day, it's like, you know what? The best revenge is massive success. So you get that chip on your shoulder and you say, you know what? I'm going to win because I'm good enough.
Mm. Now, I've heard that a lot. A lot of successful people say that. They say they just use their anger and I will show, I'll show you. There's something good about that, transmuting that, maybe not anger, but could be anger, but that, like annoyance, frustration, anger, I'll show you. So there's some good in that. Okay, so Well, this has been highly interesting. So what do you want to leave people with before we close the show? What's some philosophy or mindset that's gotten you through your life?
I would say that we're all going to go through ups and downs. We all go through great days. We all go through bad days. So when it happens and when it comes, just say, you know what, that's part of life. Don't let it discourage you. But if and I have it, and I tell my son this. I'm like, look, if you have a horrible day, you get one day to have a pity party. You lay down in the bed, you cry, you throw your tantrum, you do whatever you need to do. But then the next day, you get up, you pull your bootstraps tight, you put on your big old panties, and you get on with life. You get one day, and then you got to get on with it. And so that, I think, is really something that I hope somebody takes away. Take a day, have a pity party, and then pull yourself up, say, you know what, I'm going to get at it, and I'm going to kick ass and take names.
You know, it's so funny. I was just telling my brother 2 days ago, that is what I do.
Really?
I said, I only give myself one day, because I used to struggle with depression. And I picked up this book on cognitive therapy many, many years ago, 20 years ago. And all I got out of it was, oh, it's my choice. If it's not like deep depression and clinical, if it's situational, right? I thought, oh, I could choose to just do one day and then I'm done, one and done. So I told myself I'm never, ever going to wallow if I feel depressed. I'm going to give myself one day. I said that. I lie in bed, do whatever I want, because the next day I'm not allowed. And you know, it changed my life because I put a box in it. I didn't just let it. And it was me agreeing to be depressed. And it wasn't clinical depression. Let's just draw a line there. Not clinical depression, but situational, melancholic depression because something went wrong. So I love that. We have that in common. Okay. So thing is, don't let yourself wallow. Give yourself a day to do whatever you want, pity party. But the next day you agree and you make an agreement. We're done. The next day you're back to business, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Hey, love that. Obviously, I love it because I say that. So, well, this has been highly educational and very interesting, Heather. Thank you so much for turning up. And thank you for listening. If you liked this, and I'm hoping that you did, please write a review and share and tell everybody about this podcast. We try very hard and we do a good job, I think, of finding the smartest people in the world. So thanks, and I'll see you on the next one.
You're listening to the Business Wealth Impact Podcast, your source for empowering information and cutting-edge ideas from the world's top minds. I'm your host, Jean Amlour, founder of seven-figure coaching company, Jean Amlour International. Join me on a journey to unleash your potential and create your highest success. Welcome to Business Wealth Impact.